Thinkst Canary makes high-fidelity honeypots that set up in minutes and requires no ongoing administration. Attackers moving silently on your network advertise their presence by tripping over them. There's a good reason Thinkst Canaries are deployed and loved by some of the best security teams in the world. They're inexpensive, they're simple, and they work. For more information, go to securityweekly.com/canary or direct message @ThinkstCanary on Twitter for more information. Domain Tools help security analysts turn threat data into threat intelligence. They take indicators from your network, including domains and IP addresses, and connect them with nearly every active domain on the internet. Those connections drive risk assessments, help profile attackers, guide online fraud investigations, and map cyber activity to attacker infrastructure. Fortune 1000 companies, global government agencies, and leading security solutions vendors use the Domain Tools platform as a critical ingredient in their threat investigations and proactive defenses. For more information, visit securityweekly.com/domain tools. Welcome back, everyone, to Security Weekly. You heard the new advertisement for Thinkst Canary. If you watch the video, I know most people listen, and we're going to work that into the programming. There's some great testimonials about Thinkst Canary. They came up in the video. You can see them. There's lots of tweets from people like Jeremiah Grossman and others about Thinkst Canary. So we will work that in the future, but check out the video. It's a great little commercial snip of tweets coming in with cool people saying cool things about Thinkst Canary. In other sponsor news, securityweekly.com/ACM. Active countermeasures. You can go there. Speaking of fast Fourier transforms is something we talk about a lot in the context of active countermeasures. And if you want to see how some of those algorithms work to find backdoors in your environment and how that's all now rolled up into a nice, easy-to-use interface, you can visit securityweekly.com/ACM. All right. I think that's all did I do all of my due diligence? I think I did. Now we can talk about stuff like the security news. It's interesting. This story is first. And I guess we'll lead into it, which is going to lead to more of a discussion. But, hey, there wasn't too much. I mean, Cisco had some flaws, PHP pair and stuff like that. But I found an article, and the backstory is some of the listeners might have shared what happened with my furnace and my HVAC system at home. I'm like slowly becoming like this HVAC. Like I'm really just at this point, I've had so many problems that I'm asking the people that come out to try and service the stuff. I'm like, so how did you learn this stuff? Is there like a course? Because I'm just going to take one and avoid calling you people altogether. Because that's how many problems. I had so many problems with my old system, I put a new system in. Now, a lot of those problems relate to this article, and I think it relates to security in that I did stupid things, and not knowing that I needed to do other important maintenance things caused a lot of failures that ultimately led to getting a new system. But it also is very similar, I think, to security. So this article is like 51 things. That sounds like a lot that most homeowners aren't doing but need to. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of these, like either I've done or I've dealt with the consequences of not doing that particular maintenance on your home. And I feel like we suffer from the similar things, but just in our networks and systems. Yeah. There's probably more than 51 things. Like we could write an article of 51 things
you should be doing on your network.
Sysadmins or network people, don't do, but need to be doing, in terms of regular maintenance to avoid, to have better performance, integrity, and more security moving forward.
But it's just like doing this stuff at your house.
You don't do it.
But it's because you're doing something else.
Yes.
Because you come home and you find out, oh, there was a fire in the garage. I need to clean that up. And then you don't get around to cleaning the dryer vent. And same thing in your network. You go in and somebody says, oh, the email is down. And you end up
show of hands, how many people have proactively cleaned their faucet aerators? Proactively. No, proactively? No, it's clogged and you go in and clean it.
Well, yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. Not proactively, though.
You mean just like for fun?
Like before it gets clogged, knowing it's been a while since you've cleaned the faucet aerators, you're going in.
Like when I get home tonight, I could sit in my office and have a cigar and watch
my faucet
Netflix.
aerators should probably be cleaned before it disrupts. It's going to disrupt water flow, Doug. You got to get in there with the toothbrush and scrub them.
That's my parents. My parents would do that.
Yeah,
my dad would have a chart.
Yes,
and he would have it on a clipboard, and it would say faucet aerator, and he would do it when it came up on the chart. Yeah.
I think we need similar hygiene, you can call it, for your network and systems, right?
And you have to convince the upper management people to buy into that, because that's the hard thing to do, because they want you to keep the lights on. They don't worry about the faucet aerators until the faucets stop working.
No, they're worried about you doing new things. So in my case, upper management is my wife, right? And she's like, we want to put an addition on the house, or we want to install an entirely new shelving system. And I'm like, well, we really need to clean our faucet aerators before they get clogged. Like, that shit gets thrown out, dude. They're like, no, we want new features. We want progress. I want the room to look completely different from the way it looked yesterday, because that makes everyone happy.
Let's replace the whole sink.
That has happened.
No, that has happened
more than once.
That's how I learned about it.
Yes.
I didn't even know about faucet aerators, and my faucet stopped working. I was like, this thing's fried. And I called like a plumber, and they brought a new sink. And he's like, you know, you can just take this little thing off and clean it out with a toothbrush, and it'll be fine. And I was like, no, I wanted a new sink.
Yeah, we wanted a new sink.
Yeah, no, I knew I could do that. In fact, I have a whole cleaning apparatus out there in my garage. I was ready to do it. I built a machine to do that for me. It's like a artificially intelligent faucet aerator cleaner.
Right.
And
I did this one recently, but only because there was a problem. And I feel like we do this in security too, right? We get breached, or there's some major security event, and then we go, oh, crap, we should really do this kind of maintenance or this other thing and monitor this thing in the future and take an action and have a process for it. But that usually only happens after some event.
It's reactive.
Cleaning my dishwasher, same damn thing. It's reactive. I'm like, I know years ago I cleaned out my dishwasher, cut myself on a piece of glass, because everything that goes in the dishwasher, it gets broken, it gets dirty, things fall out, straws, whatever. It all goes in the bottom of your dishwasher. There's a grinder in the bottom of your dishwasher that grinds that stuff up so it can more easily drain out. However, it's really hard to grind plastic straws and glass and things like that. So
you just got to keep on trying.
All of a sudden, your dishwasher's making weird noises, or it's clogged, and you're like, time for a new dishwasher.
There you go.
And then I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. I think I read something somewhere that said you can clean the dishwasher, and if you're like me, you go to YouTube and you figure out how to take apart your dishwasher. I did that years ago.
Then you buy a new dishwasher.
Yeah. Then when you can't get it back together, you have to go. I actually fortunately got it back together. But then I was like, you know, that we should probably do that regularly. And then every weekend, you know, my wife would be like, well, I really want a new shelving unit and hang a new mirror here and all that stuff. And then one night our dishwasher's making a heinous noise, and the next morning I take it apart, and lo and behold, there's this gigantic plastic straw that was stuck right in the grinder, so it was making like a noise every time the dishwasher turned on, right? And so I cleaned it out. Now, the first time I did it, I just shoved my hand in there, and I was like, I had to pull this shit out, and I cut my hand wide open on a piece of glass.
Yeah,
because glass turns out it's really hard to see.
Yeah.
So when I did it this time, I was like, ooh, pliers, tweezers. Yes, I'm going to pull everything out of there. But the point is, I didn't do it until there was a problem.
Why would you do
that? I think that we talk about we're talking earlier in Enterprise Security Week about the integration of operations and development with security. We need to have regular tasks that also speak to security and not wait until there's a problem. This article just reminded me of that, and reminded me that I
need to clean your oven doors.
Clean my oven doors.
Well,
yes.
The thing that popped into my head when you started talking about this is, like when you get a new computer, do you start with the OS and add just what you need, or you bulk drop everything from your old system, including the crap you don't use and the old shit that's hiding in the corners? Which approach do you use? And then in a business, do you have the time to rebuild only what needs to be there? But it's an important hygiene step.
Yeah, and technology is making that easier. Like with containers, it's much easier to do that. I don't know about easier. It allows you to do that and continue it moving forward. Getting there is still some work, but I think a lot of security comes down to this regular maintenance and hygiene that we're talking about. And certainly the parallels in this article were unprecedented, especially since I do have a brand new HVAC unit and it is failing, and nobody can figure out why, which is interesting.
There are a couple IT Easter eggs hidden in there too. It's a fairly comprehensive list.
It is. Anyway, I thought it was a pretty cool article.
Okay, this says cleaning weep holes
in your windows. You don't clean the weep holes in your windows?
No, I don't even know what the hell it is.
When water gets like inside your windows, like if you have it open and it goes in the window sill, if it didn't have holes that are called the weep holes, that water would just collect and pool
I just board the windows up and put plastic over them.
Well, you could do that, or you could just clean your weep holes if you had water that was inside of your.
I
hate it.
I learned you were supposed to
hole.
leave your weep hole alone a long time ago.
No, it's got to be. You got to have a clean weep hole. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Oh, there's good stuff on here. Everybody should look at this article.
Yeah, I especially new homeowners.
Yeah,
I'm putting together my advanced homeowner kit, and it includes a device to measure the CFMs in your air registers.
And bourbon.
Wind speed, velocity. There's something in there about a swallow.
God.
But it does measure wind speed, velocity. And all I can think of every time I say wind speed, velocity is Monty Python in the search.
Now, they got a misspelled word here because I've always wanted to remove garage grim.
Grim?
It says removing garage grim.
Yes. The Grim Reaper that's in your
He
garage
is invisible.
should be removed.
Yeah.
I think they meant grime.
Is there grim in your weep hole?
That's the
What was I
invisible
saying?
E. It's a
That's
thing.
the name of this episode. Grim in your weep
Visible E.
hole.
Grim in your weep hole.
I probably should have saved this story for last because it's going to be really difficult to transition off of the story and on to something else when it has
And
terms
now for
like
something completely different.
grim and weep holes and,
Grim weep holes.
and blowing out your soffits. It does.
And now
say-
for something completely the same.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
Blow out your soffits after you get rid of your grim weep holes.
holes.
Weep holes.
$1 million idea, Paul. Hunter-gatherer skills for IT professionals.
Yes.
How to survive in the real world.
There you
It's
go.
true. It's true. Anyway, where do we want to go from here?
Oh, how about I like the Nest missile alert.
Yeah. So someone threatened a family using a Nest camera to broadcast a fake missile attack.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how do you really like, how do you do that?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't sure exactly what they did or how the alert was presented.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a Nest camera, so we all have this stuff. And I was looking at mine, and I was like, I don't know how this camera would, broadcast an alert to me. I was like, maybe the guy walked up on their front porch with a little sign that said "missile alert incoming" or something. I don't know. I thought it was really strange.
It's interesting. They said they compromised the Nest devices through exposed breaches in other websites.
Well, I get the hack. I just didn't understand exactly what happened.
With Ring, it sends you alerts when other events happen.
Yeah, I guess
and actually
so,
they came
yeah.
under scrutiny for who has access to the
Right.
footage on your Ring, but it will send you alerts like a suspicious car was
Right. Yeah, I get it.
So I could
those,
see
yeah.
changing one of those alerts and going,
Yeah.
there's a missile attack.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's available on the cams.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
From Nest, because Ring and Nest are two different companies.
Yeah,
but
so I mean,
Nest makes
yeah.
doorbells and stuff too now.
Right. No, I know.
They used to just make thermostats, and they got bought by Google.
Yep.
And it's
But
becoming
my
their smart
Ring
home.
sends me alerts, so yeah,
Mhm.
somebody could hack that, push an alert out. But I mean, honestly, if I got an alert from my doorbell that said North Korean
There's a
missiles
missile.
inbound, I probably wouldn't even jump up from my desk and go clean my weep holes or anything. I would probably just sit there and go, "What the hell?"
You would ignore it and go clean your weep holes.
Yeah, probably so. Because
You would immediately pay attention to that weep hole maintenance that you were lax on. I know you
It's
would.
a major
I feel it.
cause of Nest attacks. Weep
So-
holes. Yeah.
I mean, one of the creepy cool things Nest is doing is they're looking for users that are using compromised passwords that have been published. It's not going to be perfect, and it feels a little creepy that they're checking for using compromised credentials, but they're trying to keep their users,
Mm-hmm.
a little more secure, and they make them change their passwords when they discover it.
I
And
think
believe
that's smartly. I mean, it is kind of creepy, but
it's cool.
yeah. I mean, hopefully they're just comparing hashes and not.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Right.
let's not get next level creepy yet. Just comparing hashes or something.
Right.
And they do have two-factor authentication for their app, for the app itself, available. It's buried down in the options where it's hard to
Sure.
see, but you can actually turn on when you're logging into your account, whether it's through their mobile app or through the website, that you have to two-factor. I believe it's just using SMS, but still, nice plus to have.
I
So
think
somebody
that
had to work for this one.
it's a good reminder that everything you put on the internet is potentially public, and most likely someone else has seen it. That includes your password, as we're talking about in this, because your
Yeah.
password is essentially on the internet, And Twitter now has warned that private tweets were public for years. I'm not sure of the, so anyone updated the email address linked to their account between November 2014 and January 2019 could have had messages exposed.
Yep. I mean, my philosophy's always been don't say anything on the internet. I don't care if you think it's a private group, a public group, a secret group.
But here's the thing with Twitter, they've always called it a direct message.
Yeah.
They haven't called it a secure direct message. They haven't called it a private message.
Right.
They've called it a direct message.
I mean,
I'm not trying to defend Twitter in this case because you do think, well, if I send this, then the public can't read it. But it just means that it didn't go out to your public Twitter feed, that it was made on a public platform. All social media networks fall into this thing. And when social media first started becoming really popular, actually after that, so it became popular, a lot of people started using it that didn't have backgrounds in technology. And then all of a sudden, when the reports came in that people were getting fired and suffering consequences in their lives as a result of things they posted on social media, when that first started happening, some of my friends and family came to me and were asking me about it. And I'm like, look, nothing you post online is guaranteed to be secret. And they're like, well, I only friend certain people and I make my account private and like whatever social network it was. And I'm like, okay, so what if someone that you're connected with or friends with is looking at something that you posted that's absolutely outrageous, immoral, viral, grotesque, whatever, and the person standing over their shoulder takes a picture of it with their phone.
Right.
I'm like, where's your privacy now? Understand that no matter what you've done with your air quote privacy settings, that the shit that you put online is public forever.
Right. I mean, it's just like, I mean, people were, I remember when Snapchat first started.
Yeah.
And people were asking me like, so is this really secure? If I tweet somebody, it's going to, or I whatever you call Snapchatting somebody.
Snapchat someone.
If you Snapchat someone.
Don't show your age. Use the right terminology. If you snap someone.
But I was immediately the first
if you snap someone in the weep hole, they get really mad.
Oh, yeah. Boy, that'll bring tears to your eyes. Snapchat.
It's really bad when Doug and I get in the studio and we're on our second bottle of wine.
Snapchat.
I remember hearing about that Snapchat. Things were supposed to disappear like in however many seconds or minutes. And then, so I was like, I didn't believe it. Then I started Googling for archives of Snapchat photos, and lo and behold, there's a crap load of them out there. So much for them disappearing.
The first thing I thought of was just video. I mean, videoing as it goes by.
Right.
I mean, I could set up a video camera on a tripod and just sit there and capture every bit of it. I'm like, it's not. I mean,
they did have protections later that you couldn't screenshot.
Yeah, they won't let you screenshot, but you can still set a video camera.
But I'll have to say, Android is a pretty open platform.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that there's probably ways
there's
around
ways
it.
around it.
Snapchat could have the most secure, air quote, secure app in the world, but once you drop it on Android, we've all seen an insecurity that an application can be tricked into doing a lot of things because the platform has bugs and holes that can be exploited.
And I knew people that were trying to capture that stuff for surveillance purposes.
Sure.
I mean, they were, and so, yeah, I mean, it's all out there somewhere. I mean, good luck.
I mean, you're putting it on somebody else's server.
Yeah. That in of itself is a bad idea.
And when other people see it, they can certainly save it. It is some of my friends on Facebook post the ridiculous Tinder things, and I'm just like, I don't understand the whole thing. I don't know. I'm married.
So, have you guys seen the movie Chef? CHEF.
No.
John Favreau.
No.
I have. Yeah, but he's got a food truck, right?
Well, but you remember, it starts off. He thinks he's sending a private tweet that gets retweeted 32,000 times.
That's right. Yep.
Pretty good example of social media not being understood. It's also an awesome father-son movie, by the way. Gets me every time. But I was just thinking about it. It's a good example of what can go wrong when you just think you're sending something private that ain't.
Yeah. Seen several people fired for stuff like that.
Yes.
I fired a couple of them.
Oh.
It's like your upper management does not have the guts to come in and tell you you're fired. So they hired me to do it instead, which is fine.
We fixed the payroll system.
I'm trying to find something as equally interesting to talk about. Lee, do you have stories that are...
Well, I thought we might have a little interest out of my number one news story. There's this... So some people, if they have some of their cell phones, and we know we all get scam photos. I mean, phone calls on our cell phones
And photos.
The time.
and photos and text. And now you may see something along the lines of scam lightly as the scam likely. This is a great line as part of the caller ID. And
now I have Lee, just to clarify there. Android natively in Android it will mark calls as spam, potential spam, and I have Truecaller.
Yeah,
and that will also. They kind of been working in tandem. Like usually, if one doesn't get it, the other might, but they both still miss things. And when you're in situations where you have to pick up your phone, and answer every call regardless, I wish that the FTC would step in and put more stringent guidelines and regulations in laws in place to make it so that when your financial firm is calling you, there's some like DNSSEC. There's some way to validate that it is my investment, my local bank, whatever it is. But it doesn't when the caller ID comes up. It could be friggin' anything, and caller ID is rendered completely useless. Sorry, Lee, I didn't mean to steal your thunder. But
no, it's cool. You made the point I want to jump on, and that is there are these two standards out there called Stir and Shaken.
Yes,
and what they basically boil down to is your phone or the VoIP gateway or other endpoint device that's basically routing the calls outward has a signature so that you know it's a genuine call.
Well, so Lee, was this the one that was just put recommended by the FCC and Amit Pai? That's the FCC chairman.
I think that's
was quoted in the article, and this
the
is
big coffee cup. Yeah,
they're pushing for. Yes,
the Reese's Pieces.
The Reese's cup
guy. And so T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and what's the fourth one are all implementing something. Although I have the feeling that Verizon is doing something completely different, but whatever.
Interesting.
Because they have to work together to cross-verify. But yeah, it's kind of they're doing it optionally because the hue and cry from the users. And of course, I expect you're going to see a basic level of protection. And for a small monthly uplift, you can get an improved level of connection that includes not only AI but machine learning. Well, they're not.
Hold on. You made that last part up because
it does Fourier transforms on your phone numbers. Converts them into quantum numbers.
Yeah, there actually is a hard problem to solve.
So it is. It's a very hard in the VoIP world. It's a very hard problem to solve because I can set up all kinds of
caller ID spoofing is ridiculous.
I mean, I can jump on Vonage or any of these services and change my numbers at will to any area code, so I can call you from a local exchange. So you think I get calls constantly.
God, it used to be years ago a few spam calls that you'd be like, oh, that's a local number. I'm going to pick that up.
Right.
You fast forward to today.
All of them are.
Like 90% of the spam calls you get are spoofing your local exchange.
Exactly.
And you know what's really funny about that to me?
Area code and prefix.
Yep.
For those of us that are road warriors, it doesn't work. Because we get calls from all over the fucking world. So it's like, yeah, whatever. But for those of us that are not, which is the majority of the population, let's face it, it damn well works, and it's annoying as crap.
But, Joff, even if you're traveling, how do you know it's not your local dry cleaner calling you, or if it's someone that wants to renew the insurance or warranty on your car, right?
Well, like you don't know that.
And I use the dry cleaner example because I got someone else's dry cleaning, which is kind of interesting. It wasn't really that interesting. I got a bunch of dress shirts that weren't mine, and I took it back, and they gave me my dress shirts, but had they called me, I'd have looked at the number and gone, is that the dry cleaners? Because it doesn't always map back to the business that's calling. Because I've gotten legitimate calls locally that I didn't answer that I was like, shit, I probably should have answered that one. And the caller ID didn't match who it was. So I feel like there's two things. I actually, God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I agree with the FCC's proposal that they should impose restrictions and laws that prevent organizations from spoofing caller ID. That seems logical to me. What also seems logical is to go the other way and require, I mean, let's start with the obvious ones. Require financial institutions when they're calling a legitimate customer from that financial institution to present a valid caller ID that is somehow verified in the proposal that they have forth today with stir and shaken.
Well,
right?
I think you have to put a certificate on each end, and that way the certificate validates, and at least it's harder to spoof it in the way it is today. I'm not sure the FCC can do it, because if I just offshore it and I make all the calls from India or Liberia or wherever, I can still spoof it, and the FCC can sit there and go, "You stop that," and unless they're willing to go to war over it, which they're not.
Yeah, because you got to trace it back to who's the U.S.-based firm that hired the external contractor.
PBX in Monroeville or Monrovia or whatever.
Doug's right. It's an implementation weakness, right? And if this thing was mutually authenticated before you can transmit caller ID, it wouldn't be a problem.
No, right? I'm not saying I would even then trust my caller ID to when someone financial institution calls me and says, "What's your social security number?" Well, hold on, you called me. No, screw you. Hang up. I'm calling you back.
But if we each just had a certificate and you knew who to trust, you could see a certificate from me, and I call you, and it's just Doug White is calling, and you would at least know that was me, and it would be a lot harder.
I still wouldn't give you.
You wouldn't. He wouldn't answer my call, but at least you. But
I wouldn't give them any personal information until I called them.
It's a certificate. I mean, I'm just saying though. It doesn't. It's not a trust thing. It just validates what it says on caller ID. So if it says Doug White, it really is Doug White. And if your phone says,
so then I know I can just send it right to voicemail.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you know, or you can just send me a dick pic back or whatever, like you usually do. But
text me first before you call. If everyone just texted first before they call, I don't know.
That's what I do.
One of the cool things in the stir and shake and stuff is it actually has different levels of assurance. So is the certificate at the phone? Is it at the PBX? Is it at the VoIP gateway? You have different levels of confidence.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that the certificate.
System, cool.
I mean, I would want the certificates to be for individual calls. A certificate should be on the individual phones. For a commercial call, it should be at the PBX level. So it would have to say, "This is IBM calling," and or it says just random caller or non-secured certificate or whatever, and you could at least just send those to voicemail, and you don't have to answer them.
It almost feels like we need one more piece of information in the caller ID, and that would be something like the level of certainty about how genuine the call is.
Yeah,
maybe I'm overboard, but
that every spam caller just needs to set the evil bit in their caller ID so that we know that they're
that's right.
Evil.
Oh, they gotta set the evil bit.
I think I saw in one of the articles I was reading. They estimate 50% of mobile calls are scams.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'd say that's pretty accurate.
I mean, I put a product on my phone and it really stripped it out.
Do you want to?
Nomo Robo.
Nomo Robo.
It costs. I'm using Nomo Robo as well.
It costs very little, and it really cut down. I was getting so many calls every day that were just horrific.
I'm in the horrific status.
Yeah, right now. And that really just, it went away.
That's good.
And I still get them on my office phone, but it's like the only ones I get on my office phone, which has a non-cool Manhattan number. I have a 646 number instead of a 212 number but my 646 number, if it's got a 646 area code, I don't answer it because I know that's a robocall.
Right.
So
right. But they have a non-mobile version of Nomo Robo. You're basically setting up simultaneous ringing at Nomo Robo and your extension, and they do the equivalent of picking up the extension and hanging up on them.
Right. Which makes them pay for the call.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know that they have to pay much, but in the old days, back in the past, it was. I remember calling my girlfriend long distance, and we had a system for that. And you call a collect call, and then you yell over the operator, and they get mad at you. You go, meet me at 8 o'clock and hang up. And then the operator would call back and go, don't do that. That's illegal. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I was actually yelling at my brother. I wasn't trying to,
That's a hack. That is
talk about an old hack. We also had the one where you ring the phone. You ring the phone twice and hang up. And that meant like, I'll meet you at 8 o'clock. So that way they didn't pick up the phone.
The days before text messaging.
Yeah, exactly. Our version of text messaging.
Do you ever make a call using a ham radio patch?
No, but I know what that is because I also have a friend who used to do that kind of stuff.
Wait, how do you do that, Lee?
Well, basically, it's like the ham operator in one location contacts another ham operator in the other location, and they're connecting it up. Then the other operator calls you on the phone and sets it up, and it's essentially
call over radio.
You're on It's call over radio, but you're also on it's using the voice activated switching and stuff, but you have to say over it when you're done talking, so that people know when to cut over, and you're not a private conversation anymore.
Right. Well, were you really
free?
Were you really a private conversation, Lee, in any situation over the old POTS systems?
Not unless you were really
Again,
naive.
I'll reference a George Carlin joke. Remember when he's talking about people tapping his phones? And he used to answer the phone. What did he say, Doug? Do you know the line?
No.
He said, "Fuck Hoover." Hello, hey, how you doing?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days. But it was at that time we were living in Hawaii, and my family was here in California, and so it was wicked expensive for that long distance call. So the patch call was great,
Huh.
and you can still get the technology to do it.
That's
I'm
pretty
sure
cool.
that technology didn't go away.
No,
Or you could just talk over the internet,
Yeah,
it's free,
right?
Exactly.
pretty much.
and because it's on the internet, of course, it's more private.
You just have to go do it at a public library. So
There you go.
These just aren't as interesting as what we've been talking about. I got on patch flaw on Cisco leaves small businesses wide open. PHP pair has been hacked, and the tainted package manager has been distributed for 6 months. It makes me think, I'm like, oh shit,
I'll be right back.
God damn it, I ran the PHP pair command. Fuck, now I gotta go check some of my systems. Pair is like the package management system for
Right.
PHP, right?
It's like the
apt
It's
or
like apt or
what is
yum.
it in Python?
I don't know what it is.
Holy
in
shit!
Python.
What is it in Python, Joff? The package manager installer.
Pip.
Thank you, Pip. We both thought you said it as I thought of it. Pip.
Yum.
Pip is to Python what pair is to PHP,
And it's tainted.
PHP.
and it's tainted. Is it hobo?
It's hobo tainted.
Wait, did we have that hobo conversation on air? Probably
God,
not.
I hope not.
God, I hope not.
That's why the FCC keeps calling my phone.
It was my Halloween costume. That's all I have to say.
Hobo in summertime.
Hobo leg ho tainted. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we wrap this up?
No, Joff, we still have time. I'm keeper of the time here, all right?
He's keeping
All right.
So
He's the head hobo in this place.
The head hobo is very accurate.
He's the taint master.
The taint master of
Now,
the universe.
I really thought this one came from the Register because of the title. Turns out it didn't. It came from Ars Technica. But a researcher discovers state actors' mobile malware efforts because of YOLO OPSEC.
YOLO.
I'm not sure what constitutes YOLO OPSEC, but OPSEC is important. And it seems that if you're an evil, bad person, malicious actor, and you're not paying attention to your OPSEC, in today's day and age, you run a really big risk of getting caught. I think that, would you agree in general that attackers have to have slightly better OPSEC because there's more awareness in potential places
I
to
would
get caught?
absolutely
Right?
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even generally, watch your six.
I mean,
right?
people.
Well, I mean, Joff, you break into enterprise networks for your job, right?
Yeah.
If your OPSEC isn't good, you might get caught. I mean, slightly different scenario, but still, if
No,
you're
you
not
gotta
using
watch your
encrypted
OPSEC,
channels or that kind of thing.
People
No,
have
it-
logging. They have, they have cameras. They have logging.
Well,
they have.
we've always had logging. I think now
people use
more
it.
people look at
That's
logs
what I mean.
for
I mean-
security events.
Yeah. So I think people do watch for that stuff. And if you were just out there wide open, I mean, I did a police case recently, and the person was caught because their IP address was exposed.
Right.
And they got notified that they were being investigated, and they still didn't.
If you don't have
obfuscate it.
basic OPSEC, you get.
And
I
that
mean, I
person-
remember back in the day at university. Well, this seems to be the episode that will live in the past. But I helped with an investigation that ultimately led to people who were convicted and sent to prison. And it was a failure on OPSEC. I was observing events in my network, and I was like, wow, that's a really weird FTP connection on a really weird port coming from a system that, based on other events, I know is compromised by someone else. Let me go on that system and see what's up. And in some of their scripts, they were automatically connecting to an FTP server. And so in that connections, because remember with FTP, you could have like a connection script that would automate it. In those files that I found were their usernames and passwords. I presented after, some process, like basically I called someone up and they were like, oh, I think we have someone working on that's in a different country. Hold on, I'll get back to you. Like literally in less than an hour later, my phone rings and it's, and I'm trying to anonymize it, even though it's been published. Anyway, it was Secret Service. They called me from Milan, Italy, and they were like, yeah, we're interested in what you got. We exchanged PGP keys, and that was basically one of the things that broke the case wide open. And because I sent Secret Service the username and password to the attacker's FTP server where they were stalling all of their malware backdoor scripts and all that stuff, they basically pulled all that down and were essentially laughing at the attackers. They had collected enough evidence to prosecute them, and it was successful. But that, again, goes back to OPSEC. Even back then, and we're talking this is in like 2005 or 3 or whatever, right? Even back then, if you made sloppy mistakes like that, someone that was paying attention could likely find you.
Yeah.
Fast forward to today, your OPSEC game has to be at a much higher level.
Because even average users now are aware of OPSEC stuff.
They're aware that hackers exist in the world. Right?
IP, they know what an IP address is, and if they don't, they can jump on Google and type it in and go, "What does this mean?" And I've had people call me,
Doug. Yeah,
I've had people call me and say, "What is it? What is an IP address? I've got one. This person keeps doing this stuff, and we captured it on our. I looked up how to capture it, and I turned my little Soho router on logging, and I've got these addresses. Is there a way to find out where those are?"
I know. And props to the people that are. I'm thinking of specific people who like really just shred attackers that even have really good OPSEC. I don't want to diminish in any capacity what they're doing. I mean, that's friggin' awesome. But the fact that a lot of the other attackers that don't have good OPSEC, they're getting clipped, here and there, maybe more. It's tough to say how often they're getting discovered. I think it's more often than in the past, be my hunch.
Well, I mean, a lot of attackers are not Lex Luthor. They're the dumb guy who just, nobody, I always say, nobody ever walked into a mini mart with a shotgun and thought, tomorrow I'll be in jail for the rest of my life. But,
it's true.
And there's attackers like that too. They're just not very smart, and they go,
not sophisticated.
Nobody's attacking this entity going, tomorrow I'm going to jail. And when they don't have OPSEC, they get caught because people are watching for them, and they have mechanisms to look for that. They have resources to turn to.
And people still do, but you're absolutely right. It's a great analogy. So let's bring that into bank robbery. Right. How many bank robbers get away scot-free, don't get caught, right? Like, it's a very, I'm sure there are. It's a very small percent, very, very, like, isolated cases where you watch the documentary on History Channel of, like, the one bank robber.
D.B. Cooper. But even D.B. Cooper didn't get away with it. He died. His parachute didn't open or something. They found his, his remains or whatever.
Right, there's lots of stories like that. But most people that rob a bank, and you hear stories and watch the local news or whatever, there's cameras.
But they still try
it. They still do it. Because
they're
still hear about a bank being robbed.
You know what, man? I tell you what, man.
That's where they keep the money.
I got all that money in there. I tell you what we do. We put some of our pantyhose over our heads, and we go in there with a couple shotguns. We're going to be rich, man. We'll have so much meth, it'll be crazy. And then they go try to rob the bank, and, I had no idea I would be in jail for the rest of my life. It's like, that
was interesting. That was kind of the premise of the whole notion of offensive security and active defense. Was one of the principles was, well, one of the reasons why you catch a lot of bank robbers is you put the die pack in the money that they take, right? And there's a digital equivalent of that today as well.
Right. And I mean, you can do stuff like that. There's all kinds. But like I said, and just the fact people have resources to turn to. 20 years ago, most companies did not have an idea who they could call to ask for help.
Right.
Today, there's companies that do this. If you Google, help me with, somebody can come help you forensicate your logs. They can prepare evidence. They've got all kinds of. You call the state police in Rhode Island. They have a great unit over there. You call over there and say, "Look, I think we got hacked." They can come over and take that data.
If there's enough damages at stake, I agree. We're transitioning off this, but I like where we're going. If there's enough damages at stake, you can get help from law enforcement. And I agree. In the past 20 years, I want to get your take on this. Past 20 years, law enforcement has significantly upped their game.
Oh my God!
In cybercrime, like you think about how long we've come in 20 years, Doug, in investigating cybercrime across the board, all the law enforcement, state, federal, local government, the whole thing.
I mean, I guarantee you, even 10, 15 years ago, and Rhode Island, shout out to Rhode Island, was one of the first states that really had a sophisticated computer crimes unit because they happened to have a couple of people over there that were really interested in this.
John Alfred.
John Alfred.
He's a great person. We met him.
Ken Bell and those guys. They were building. Ken Bell was one of the people that built that program. But I mean, you know, and you call them and they will talk to you about it.
But there has to be enough. It's a prioritization.
Well, they may tell you that we can't do much because it's such a dinky thing. But
correct.
I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you called your local law enforcement and said, "I think I got hacked," they're like, "With a machete or what? A lawnmower blade?" Because I think I'm going to have to kill you.
And even today, I've seen a lot of harassment cases that, given better technology and expertise and effort, probably could lead to some type of prosecution.
Well,
right?
I'll give. I can't tell you much about this, but I did this law enforcement thing, and this case was very long. It had been going on for years and years and years and years, and a lot of the early investigation of this case was essentially people saying, "We don't know what to do. We can't help you." But over time, a really great detective got involved in that case, and because there were tools available and resources available to that person, they were able to put that case together. And after many years, they closed it, and it was because of OPSEC. I mean, the person did not use good OPSEC, and otherwise they would have got away with it. But because they just didn't have, they were the guy with a shotgun in a 7-Eleven. I mean,
it's interesting. I want to go back to what Chris Morales was saying between data scientists and security people. Security people have that knowledge of what to look for and why. The data science has that, like, how we look for it. When we look at law enforcement, in your case of the detective, in a lot of scenarios, that's flipped. There's someone who's been a detective or an investigative agent for 20 years.
Right.
That experience is so valuable to someone who's skilled in computer security that that's a great kind of marriage that can lead to a lot of convictions. And I feel like a lot more of that is going on.
And they smartened up on it because you saw then the FBI and people like that starting to hire people like you, because they knew that even though they had these great investigators, the investigators didn't know what questions to ask.
Right.
They knew they needed to ask a question.
Right.
And they knew about that behavior.
Their investigation skills were, I mean,
and
awesome.
I've had investigators say to me, "I know this guy's that did it."
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell from talking to this guy, he did it.
They have that intuition.
But it's like, I don't know what he did, and I don't know how he did it.
I don't understand the technology or anything, but
and
they
literally,
just got feeling,
I've written a question or two for them and said, "Ask them these two questions, and then tell me what they said." And they call me back and said, "Here's what he said," and I was like, "Oh yeah, he did it."
Yep.
I mean, just very, I mean, but they've learned, and so that means you better up your OPSEC game if you're playing.
Yeah, to come back to the story, you're absolutely right.
I mean, because if you're not using good OPSEC, you are probably going to get caught. I mean, if
they don't know, they know who to ask. Whereas before they didn't know who to ask or what to ask.
And they didn't even have resources. I mean, but now they do, because now they go, "Oh, I know a guy at the university who teaches cybersecurity classes. I watch Security Weekly. I mean, I know a lot of law enforcement people who watch this show or listen to the show." And, they say, "I don't always know what they're talking
about."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, they're taking notes about you, Jaw. But
yeah.
There's going to be a wall to deal with your type soon. And, But I mean, I think law enforcement's really upped their game. They've found resources. Corporate has upped their game. They found resources. They got people on staff. They've got units, and because of that, I think that if you're playing these games, you're pretty much the guy with a shotgun and a 7-Eleven.
I mean, on the flip side of that, there's a lot of attackers that have had great success. I think the investigations have gotten much better, but that doesn't mean there's still like this database of 24 million mortgage loan records left exposed online.
OPSEC goes both ways.
It goes, yes. That's actually summed up very nicely, Doug.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's funny. You ever had that experience? If you're an information security professional in the field, somebody will often come up to your party or something and say, "Hey, man, I'm glad you're on the good guys' side. You know, if you ever turn bad, it would be really bad for the rest of us." And my typical response is, I'm actually not that good. I'm good. But if you're on the bad side, your OPSEC has to be near fucking perfect.
Yeah. If to not get caught, sure.
You're going to get busted otherwise these days.
Well, and so many people will come to you and present a scenario, and you're like, to execute that scenario, to hack this thing or get that piece of information, you realize that could be months, maybe years of work. And as Joff said, your OPSEC has to be perfect to not get caught. And there are people out there trying to execute those attacks. Who knows how successful they are? Varying degrees of success, certainly. But there's a huge level of effort. But it's not, and I think Hollywood and movies and TVs have kind of done that a disservice, right? They think,
I agree.
To pull off like that big hack. In the movie, they show it like, they just type they look like they're just mashing the keyboard.
And Swordfish, where they're holding a gun to his head. Yeah. He's like, I'm hacking the DOD. Hang on. I'm going to shoot you in 30 seconds. In. And it's like, yeah, right. That happened.
Yeah. Right. It's just, it's Hollywood, right?
Of course.
I mean, and, to be honest, in the pen testing field, this is sort of a sad statement on the industry. We tighten up. We stay pretty quiet in the beginning of a lot of our engagements, but we pretty quickly get noisy. And the sad statement on it, this is not directly related, but the sad statement on it is a lot of organizations don't notice. And it's like, oh, wait, man, we've been noisy enough that you should notice. This is purely from a metrics and sort of threat hunting perspective. But, but the thing is, even pen testers, a lot of us don't really have to practice really tight OPSEC. We just don't. The state of the industry is not at that level, right? That's
even pen testers get the blues.
Well, and I think I mean, what the company you're engaging with knows who you are and all that stuff. So it's not a really fair.
It's not a fair comparison. Right? It's a different. It's contrived, right? It's a contrived setup example.
And that's a sliding risk business, though, too. I mean, that's about like how much OPSEC do you want to have, and how. So I mean, if they say this is the launch codes and we've got nuclear weapons ready to fire here, you probably want to make if you're trying to pen test them, you're going to have perfect OPSEC. But if it's some company going, so it's all about where they want you to be on the pen testing.
There is the drone strike threat. If you do hack something, someone's going to come.
Hellfire missile
is going to come.
Hellfire missile coming right down the chimney. There could be one on its way here.
Weapons going to come get you. Oh well, the fundamental, as much as pen testing is wonderful, right? But as much as we say we are going to emulate a real threat actor, there's a couple of big limitations. One is it's under contract, and the second is I got to stay within the confines of the law.
Yeah.
Inside of that contract.
And I think that's what I was clumsily getting at, Joff, was that that sliding scale of where you get to be. You say, do you want us to go all out and because if it's nuclear weapons, I'm like, yeah, break the law. I want you to test this. I don't want anybody ever getting in here. But yeah, as a contractor, you have to play that game. And it's how many hours do you want us to spend on this? Do you want us to spend 10,000 hours and then do what somebody might really do to you, or 1,000 hours because that's what you want to pay for? And it's a game.
There are real examples out there of pen testers that have said, okay, fuck it. Yeah, I'm going to break into your premises and steal all your gear.
Yeah.
Guess what? You just violated the law. Guess what? Customer's going to call the cops and you're going to get fucked. Right? I mean, you don't go across some lines, right? I mean, there are limitations.
Yeah. Right? Scope.
Yes, scope. Yes. So, Lee, I like the new Android malware that uses it looks at the telemetry from the motion sensor on your on Android and determines if it's being emulated or not, right? I'm assuming that's the story that your story number 2.
Yeah, that was the one where I was looking at Android was it's trying to use the motion sensor input to tell if it's in a sandbox, so it just goes to sleep. If it finds it's on a real phone, it offers you a secure Android update that's really cool and does crypto mining for you. I just like the way that it was so stealthy. It just kind of and trying not to be detected.
Yeah, when we had Lenny Zeltzer on the show late last year, he talked about some of the evasion techniques or techniques that malware would use to detect if it was in a forensics environment or in a lab environment, right? And I feel like that's always a cat and mouse game, right? So like now, knowing this, if you've got a malware sandbox that's emulating Android, you know that you need to emulate the motion sensors as if it were a real phone, and then the attackers are going to go back and say, can I use some type of machine learning algorithm to figure out that is this an emulated motion data that's being fed to me, or is this actual motion data that's being fed to me by someone's phone?
Yep, I agree.
And one thing I was wondering is what happens if I turn off location services on the device, but then I thought, wait a minute, who practically runs around with their phone and never turns on the location services?
Yeah, and that's most likely spoofed, Lee, right? The location services in the emulated environment. It's a cat and mouse game, just like it is for malware on PCs as well.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's cool they're trying new stuff.
It is cool that they're trying this. I saw this article this week as well, Lee, and I thought it was cool. And I wondered about how far the cat and mouse game was going to go, right? Like how hard are we going to work in a forensics sandbox environment to emulate movement versus how hard are the attackers going to work to be able to detect whether the movement is being faked or whether it's actually real.
Yep.
And actually, that is a pretty good use case for some type of machine learning.
Yeah,
on the attacker. And one of it's people giving presentations, attackers use machine learning too.
They do.
In situations just like that, probably.
It's how they up their OPSEC.
Right.
Wow, I feel like we just came full circle. That was beautiful, Paul.
That was beautiful. I don't think we can top that.
I'm crying here. I'm crying.
With that, we're going to end the show. I will turn Doug or Joff. Lee.
Oh,
my God.
Lee Neely.
Take us out.
Lee. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Lee Neely. Take us out.
And with that, our rhyme of security news and mixed in with porn memes, we're out of here. Catch you next week.